What's up, everybody? This is Cam Hand, the Fantasy Man, coming at you with our Week 5 fantasy recap. It was a great week this week, and yeah, I'm super excited. I think I have one of our best random rankings of all time. I think probably 7 of the people in this league will think this is a phenomenal random ranking. The other 6 or whatever of you, not 6, 5 of you won't care about the random rankings, but the 7 of you that do, I think will really appreciate it. Again, save the dates. We got Thanksgiving football coming up. Will, don't schedule any golf. Everybody clear your schedule for a good Thanksgiving football game. Ash, call out of church. We're showing up, we're playing. Also, we got the ski trip coming up. Slight update on the ski trip is that Logan has informed me that he has 10 discounted ski lift passes. So I believe they're about $50 per lift pass per day. So yeah, he's got 10 $50 passes for Copper Mountain in Colorado. So that's where I would like to go. I, of course, would love to go to Utah, but it's just hard to get there. And I want to see my good friend Logan. And I want those discounted lift tickets as well. So put that on your schedule, Doug. I don't want to hear that you guys have like a new iPhone coming out in the weeks up and coming to this event. Will, I don't want to hear that you don't have any PTO. I don't want to hear that you have golf. Hunter, I don't want to. I don't want any excuses. I want people there. I want to do the ski trip. Worst injury luck, Ashton this week. I don't really want to give Ash any prop or not props, but I don't know. Whatever. Ash has worse injury luck. Who cares? Bauer, Pearsall, Chuba, Hunter, probably a close second with the Marion Hampton injury. But Ashton, yes, he did have pretty bad injuries. Most unlucky, though, by far, I would say, is Matt, 150 in a loss, and he lost to a completely ridiculous Will win. Like, Will put up 177 this week. I think that's probably the highest anyone has scored this season. I could be wrong, but if you're Matt and you told him, hey, you're going up against Will and you put up 150, I think Matt would have said, hey, I must have blew Will out. But no, not the case. Matt loses with the most points for in a loss that anyone has had. So nobody has had that many points in a loss. Matt, probably correctly, had that. So most unlucky Matt. There's a little video of a skier. Oh, that's Logan falling. So that's probably what Matt looks like on the slopes. So I'm sure we'll probably see that soon. Most lucky is Bobby. He was in the marquee matchup this week against Doug. And it was a completely lackluster performance by both of them. But luckily for Bobby, randomly Doug put up like his worst week of the year. So Bobby got super lucky, was able to give Doug his first loss. But yeah, I think Bobby had like 115 and a win, and Doug had like 110. So it's a super lucky win by Bobby. Dumbest move, Ashton. Not playing Jordan Addison or Trey Tucker, and also playing the Broncos D against the Eagles was all 3 pretty bad moves. I'll tell you what. I mean, I get what Ashton was saying, that the Browns are really good against opposing wide receivers, which is true. But hey, Addison put up like 15 points. Justin Jefferson put up 22. All I know is I was playing Ashton this week, and when I saw he wasn't playing Jordan Addison, I was pumped about it. When I saw he wasn't playing Jordan or Trey Tucker against like the Colts, or forget who they were playing against, but it was a bad pasty. I was excited he wasn't playing Trey Tucker against that bad pasty. And then I was also excited to see Ashton was playing the Broncos defense against the Eagles. So when your opponent is happy with the moves you make and the people you decide to put on the bench, they're dumb moves. But, smartest move, I mean, and I'm not even going to bury the lead here. Will put on an absolute masterclass this week, an absolute masterclass. I hate to give him this much props, but I mean, he picked up the Colts D for zero fab, played them. They got 17 points for him. He picked up Waller for zero fab. He kept Waller on his bench, but Waller had 18 points. He picked up Michael Carter for zero fab, who, Michael Carter's a stud. He picked up Rico Dowdle for zero fab. Rico Dowdle is the number one waiver ad this week. He traded, made the like he made the. I just think it was so awesome that he had Rashad White too. Because he made the trade with me. So that was a very great move by him for having his RB1's handcuff. And then he also did the smart move of not playing Chase Brown or Travion Henderson. Instead, he went with Rico Dowdle and Rashad White, which not a lot of people would do. Will gave up a lot for Chase Brown. He, drafted Travion Henderson high. Not a lot of people have the guts to bench those guys for people like Rico Dowdle and Rashad White, but Will did, and it paid off. It was just an absolute masterclass by Will. So many smart moves. He spent $0 of fab and completely has remade his bench. Meanwhile, you have Greg out here spending, 100 fab on Booty and, whatever. You guys get the point. Totally great. Best free agent move. The Rico Dowdle pickup from Will was phenomenal, 30 point something. And then, unsurprisingly, Will, best player. I mean, I've already gone through it, but he had the most points scored this year at 177. I could be wrong. It's at least top three. Amazing Rico Dowdle play, amazing Colts D play. He didn't start Henderson or Chase, which again I just think is really ballsy and smart by Will when you end up benching two guys with that kind of pedigree for someone like Rico Dowdle and Rashad White, and it ends up paying off. And then he also picked up Waller and Michael Carter for zero fab. It just, I mean, there's no question about it. It was phenomenal. Worst player, I'm going to go with Tyler. He had by far the least points this week. Also, his Seahawks. I mean, Tyler doesn't know how to pick up defenses. I mean, he played the Seahawks versus Tampa, which I understand the Seahawks have a good defense. But Tyler, dude, when a good defense is going up against a good offense, the good offense almost always wins. I understand the Seahawks have a good defense, but they were going up against Baker Mayfield and the good offense. They're going to lose. They're not going to put up good points. I think they ended up getting Tyler negative points. He picked up and played Malik Washington I'm pretty sure he spent a pretty penny of fab on Malik Washington, and that didn't pay off. And there was also some more desperation plays on his lineup. But at the end of the day, he had the least points, and the Seahawks D thing was bad, and the Malik Washington thing was not good. Season segments, we're going to go into Dabs. Dylan for asking if we ever did Doug's coworker rankings. He's not watching the videos. 17 dabs. Dylan essentially admitted to me that he has not been watching the videos. He asked me, "Oh, hey, like, did you ever do a video using Doug's coworkers? Doug's coworkers random rankings." We're speaking of the rankings from 2 weeks ago. Of course, he didn't watch that video, and if you remember in that video, I also said, Dylan, if you're watching this, say something in the chat because I don't think you're watching this. He never said anything, so he's clearly not watching. Bobby for holding two quarterbacks and three tight ends, four dabs. Why Bobby still has Jared Goff on his team, I don't know. And he has three tight ends. I understand one of them's Kittle, but it's just weird that Bobby's just always been someone who uses his roster spots in a strange way. Broker for still having Colston Loveland, who has done nothing, hasn't been good, and I don't know why he still has him on his team. Three dabs. This is a bit of a throwback dab, but Broker, this just came to me this week. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot Broker doesn't like chocolate. Cameron Broker for not liking chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate, dude? 8 dabs. I mean, it's just pure sugar. It's just good. And then this is also an argument me and Cameron Broker had back in the day. Broker for not liking Oreos because they are chocolatey, 7 dabs. Cameron Broker doesn't like Oreos. And you might say, oh, well, of course he doesn't like chocolate. He's not going to like Oreos. It's like, who eats an Oreo and is like, oh, this tastes so chocolatey? It's like, no, it's all about it's like a dark cracker. And then it's got like the vanilla or whatever cream inside. It's like, you can totally like Oreos and still not like chocolate. Either way, it's dabs for not liking Oreos and for not liking chocolate. Broker for not saying anything about my 2K rankings video, 5 dabs. Broker was a huge talking point from those people who watched the video because they saw that I did a prime broker versus a old washed broker. And anyway, I put Prime Broker at number two, which was kind of controversial, and Broker said nothing like, oh, like Prime Broker is way better than Preston, or nothing like, oh, like no jokes, like, oh, I'm still just as good as Prime Broker. Nothing. He just completely, he probably didn't even watch the video. Matt for waiving Rico Dowdle, and then Rico Dowdle dropping 32 points on him, 8 dabs. So Matt dropped Rico Dowdle, and then Rico Dowdle proceeded to get picked up by Will, and then Rico Dowdle proceeded to drop 32 points on Matt, the guy who dropped him. 8 dabs. Greg, Tyler, and Doug for living with a beeping fire alarm in their living room like it's nothing, 6 dabs. If you remember Tyler's, you can go back and watch Tyler's random ranking video from last week. You can hear in the background there's just the beeping from a fire alarm that needs batteries. It's just beep, beep, like every like whatever like minute it beeps, and Tyler and Greg are just living in that madness, um, just unfazed, which is just the most on brand thing ever. Riley actually watched the video and texted me. He was like, "Dude, like, was that a joke that the fire alarm thing was beeping? Like, was that a joke or?" Like, do they actually live like that? And I was like, dude, I think they actually live like that. I'm sure it's still not fixed. 6 dabs for that. Doug for having no dog and not being able to keep up with fantasy soccer or even do fantasy basketball. 4 dabs. I asked Doug to play in our fantasy basketball league. He says, "Bro, I can't even keep up with our fantasy soccer league. I can't do fantasy basketball too." It's like, Doug, have some dog, dude. I'm in like 4 fantasy football leagues. I just got out of fantasy baseball playoffs. I'm in like 2 fantasy basketball. It's like, dude, have some love for the game, Doug. Have some absolute love for the game. 4 dabs. Doug, for unsurprisingly, once again, thinking a trade is a major fleece, 10 dabs. I mean, what do they say? It's like there's 3 things that are guaranteed in this world. It's like death, love, and Doug getting mad about a trade that's made. I mean, has Doug ever seen a trade that he has not thought was a fleece in some way? And how many times does Doug have to be wrong? Like 90% of trades are not don't end up being fleeces, but Doug 100% of the time thinks they're fleeces. I just don't know how he's not learning, and I don't know how he's not figuring this out yet. 10 dabs. I mean, and this goes with that. Doug for thinking the Matt and Preston preseason trade was a fleecing, 12 dabs. If you remember, Doug was freaking out about the preseason trade of Matt and Preston with the picks, like Matt trading his first round pick. And Doug was like, "This is so stupid. Like, oh, Preston's such an idiot. Like, oh, da 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 da." Meanwhile, what are we even talking about that trade anymore? No, because it wasn't a fleece. Anybody who like thought about it for 10 seconds realized that it wasn't a big deal. But Doug, of course, has to think that every single trade made in the league is just like the end of the league. Every trade made to Doug, it's like this league like is about to. It's not even a legitimate league anymore because Tyler just got DK Metcalf and Jordan Mason and Lamar Jackson for James Cook. Like I can't even play in this league anymore. Doug says. 12 dabs. Will for bowling 113. 2 dabs. Greg texted me about that. And some of us who aren't that good at bowling might think a 113 is okay, but I guess with those guys where they're bowling a lot, and Will's a pretty good bowler, 113 is a pretty big low point for Will. Will for getting mad and overly aggressive in the chat and starting a real argument, 5 dabs. I'm very consistent here. People who get in real fights and real arguments in chat, make it a little personal. I mean, I'm pretty sure Will threw the annoying word out. I'm pretty sure he told Ash to shut up. Just a little too much from Will. Will was defending my honor a little bit because it was egregious what Ashton was doing, and it was a little annoying. But you just gotta swallow it, swallow your pride, Will, and you just gotta ignore it. You can't get into a real argument in the fantasy chat. Ashton for not knowing this is egregious, and I know like people like Matt or Bobby or whoever wasn't in our grade at Central will not know this, obviously, but Ashton for not knowing who Chris/Christopher/Nathaniel/Nathan/Owen/Horn is. 15 dabs. For those of you who don't know, Chris, he's pictured in top right. That's I mean, he's a complete enigma. That's the best picture I could find of him. Chris Nathaniel/Owen/Horn is a guy that went to our high school, total oddball, total enigma, weird fella. And if you ever were in a class with him and there was a sub, or it was like the first day, they would be reading off attendance and they would go Chris/Christopher/ Nathaniel slash Owen slash Horn. And he would just be like, oh yeah, that's me. And we would all be like, dude, what? Like, why? Like, what is going on? Why are there all those slashes? Like, what's happening? Like, what is your name? And he would just be like, yeah. And then just be like, you'd be none the wiser and you'd never be able to figure it out. It was the strangest thing. Like he had like five names and they were all like, it was all like, oh, either call me Chris or Christopher or Nathaniel slash Nathan or Owen. My last name is it Owen or Horn? Like no one knows. Like it was, I wish, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody else in our grade knows who he is other than Ash. I mean, Dabs, I can't even fathom how many dabs it is to not know the absolute man, myth, legend, Chris Nathaniel slash Nathan slash Owen slash Horn. Again, you have a sub come in, they're reading, they're like, oh, Cameron Ann present. Oh, Preston Burgess present. And then they sit there for like 2 seconds and they're like, Chris slash Christopher slash Nathaniel slash Nathan Owen Horn. And he'd be like, yeah. And you'd be like, who is this guy? Not to mention he's just a complete oddball. I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but me, Dylan, and Andrew actually saw him out in downtown Alpharetta a few months ago. I think during Thanksgiving, actually, like a year ago. And I was like, who is that guy? And I looked at Andrew. I was like, Andrew, he looks so familiar. Who is that? And Andrew looks it back at me with shock on his face. He's like, oh my gosh. And he goes, Cameron, that's Chris slash Christopher slash Nathaniel slash Nathan slash Owen slash Horn. And I was like, what? That's him? And he's like with a bunch of chicks. And you're like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Ashton, for so egregiously and so many times trying to reverse jinx to the point where it backfired after the Shaheed and Johnson TDs, 10 dabs. Ashton it was egregious how hard Ashton was trying to reverse jinx. I'm not going to win. I'm not going to win. I'm not going to win. Meanwhile, he's playing my terrible team. Oh, my team's so bad. My team's so bad. I'm still not going to win. Like, oh, it's so bad. Like, I have to play Theo Johnson. Oh, no. And it just was reverse jinx after reverse jinx after reverse jinx. And the turning point was when Rashid Shaheed got a 90-yard touchdown and Theo Johnson just scored 2 TDs in the first 5 minutes of the game. Ash was like, oh my, like Ash was still complaining. He was still like, oh, I'm still going to lose. My team's so bad. Even though Ash knew very well at that point in the matchup, he was feeling extremely good. And then he's just reverse jinxing after those TDs. And that's when it goes too far. And that's when the fantasy gods, like the reverse jinx can work to the point where if you actually believe it, like if you actually believe you're not going to win and you say it, then that works. But the second in your heart you feel like you're going to win and then you still put on the fake act of acting like you're going to lose, that's when the fantasy gods switch it on you. So 10 dabs. Ash for inciting and participating in an argument in the fantasy chat with his reverse jinxes. 5 dabs. Ash incited this argument with Will by just constantly complaining and constantly trying to reverse jinx, even though everything was going right for him. And it just drove Will so crazy that Will just felt the need to start this fight. And then Ash actually participated in the argument. And that's where the next bullet comes in. Ash for cringe arguing in the chat using a kissy face emoji. 5 dabs. Ash is just one of those guys who cringe argues. I can just tell. He's the type of guy that says, oh, like you're so good, LMAO. Like the LMAO part is just to get under your skin and it's super cringy. And he also did something to get under Will's skin. He used a kissy face emoji in the argument, and it was super cringe. This part's blocked out for the number of dabs. So Ashton for not commenting about the basketball video, even though he's a top tier guy. Ashton's supposed to be a big basketball guy. Does he even watch my basketball 2K rankings video? No. Does he even comment about his thoughts on the basketball 2K rankings video? No. If I made a hockey video ranking everybody about how good they were at hockey, do you think Greg and Doug are being silent about that? I don't think so. But Ashton's supposed to be a basketball guy and he watches that video. He's got no comments. Also, Ashton for not responding to my text about fantasy basketball. I think that's his 6 dabs. I asked Ash if he wanted to play fantasy basketball. Did he respond to my text? No, he didn't. 6 dabs. And lastly, this is only second to the Nathaniel slash Owen slash Horn thing, is Ash for saying that Tyler got a player for Z Scott, 11 dabs. This is the most this is the most crazy logic I've ever heard in my life. So I guess Ash goes through this trade and he's like, okay, Darnell Mooney for Lamar Jackson. Okay. James Cook for DK Metcalf. Okay, Xavier Scott for Jordan Mason. Oh my gosh, you got Xavier Scott for Jordan Mason. It's like, no, Ash, that's not how trades work. When like clearly James Cook is the best player in this trade, so Preston had to. Oh, what's up, man? Preston had to add up. You know, whatever needed to get, whatever he needed to get to the point where he could get James Cook. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy logic from Ash. But stepping out and going into another room. But yeah, it's just absolute crazy logic from Ash, thinking that he got a player for Xavier Scott. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's the same thing where I just can't get over it. I mean, when you look at this trade, Ash is like, oh, like it's not like basically a 4-for-1, which is what it is. It's a 4-for-1. It's a 4-for-4. It's like it's just crazy. But Dabs is Ash with 60. That's Ash as Jon Snow. I'm sure Ash hasn't even watched Game of Thrones. Dubs is Tyler for bringing it to a new level with random rankings by videoing the random rankings. 5 dubs last week. Tyler did a video that was genius. Ashton for offering me his software for editing my videos. 2 dubs. That was very nice. Now I don't need it, Ash. I've figured out how to do it on my computer, I think, relatively well now. Broker for streaming Red Zone every Sunday. Broker streams Red Zone on Discord every Sunday. Someone told me that, so I hopped on Discord this weekend, and there he was. I got a free Red Zone stream. That was great. Haley for subbing into the soccer game when they needed a girl. I said Barbara choked. 6 dubs. I guess Barbara got a little hamstring injury, aka kind of choked, and Haley really had to step up and sub in for the team. So that was a huge moment for her. Also, all the Swifties out there on the topic of Haley, all the Swifties out there for the new Taylor Swift album. I want to give a shout out to them. 2 dubs. I'm married to a Swiftie. I know how important this album was to people, and I just wanted to give a shout out to the numerous Swifties I know listen to this video. Will and Cameron for at least temporarily relieving the pain of being losers. 4 dubs. Me and Will were really, really down bad. We're really upset. It was hard to go through the everyday motions of life, knowing how bad our fantasy teams were. But hey, we won this week, so we get to at least have 1 week of feeling pretty okay. I get 2 dubs for my Cup play. I was debating, should I play Goddard? Should I play Tolbert? Should I play Cup? Should I play this, that? And I ended up going with my gut. I played Cooper Kupp, and it worked out. He got me 11 points. It was the best play for me. 2 dubs, super happy. Broker for the JCM breakout and play. That was awesome. He played JCM, and he popped off, and it helped Cameron pull away this week. Matt for hooking me up with his brother for the B-Ball League. 2 dubs. Matt's brother is going to be playing in me and Preston's basketball league on our team. For those of you who don't know, Matt's brother lives in D.C. I texted Matt. I was like, hey, does your brother want to play on our basketball team? And Matt was like, yeah. And so now we got another guy for that. And then also Sydney for asking what I do for work. I talked to Will last night, and Sydney was there, and I was just telling him, we were talking football, and Sydney was like, hey, Cameron, like, what do you do for work? And I was like, you know what? I thought about it after. I'm like, people don't ask that enough. That made me feel good. I was like, what happened to manners? It's like Sydney wanted to know something about me, and what someone does for work is a big part of who they are. And she asked, and I don't know, I just thought it was 3 dubs. I thought that was pretty cool. League standings, not going to go through it too much here, but you can see there's actually some shifting of the top 3 just between Bobby, Hunter, and Doug. I move up 1 spot. Dylan moves up 2 spots. Is what it is. That's where we're at. Stock rising as Will completely revamped his lineup using Zero Fab to do so. He popped up for 177 this week. His stock is completely rising. I need to switch the room I'm in again. Sorry for this. All right, back to my original room. But Will's stock is rising, and he completely revamped his team with all that Michael Carter and Darren Waller and whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Stock falling is Ash. He went from 8 to 11 on our ranking, and his team just doesn't look very good. He's got a lot of injuries. I mean, simple as that. Stock is falling for Ash. Next week's marquee matchup is Preston versus Cameron. Both live in DC, so we're going to be right here battling it out. And we're both going to the Commanders Bears game on Monday, and that could possibly decide who wins because I'll be playing Terry McLaurin and DJ Moore in that game. And so it could very well come down to an in person. Me and Preston are in the building for Bears Commanders watching the game. That could be the deciding factor face to face at the Commanders game. Who wins that matchup? I mean, that sounds sick. Like if we're tied or like he's up by 20 and I have DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin left to play, can they equal up to 20 at the game we're at? We'll see. Most annoying is Doug, again, for refusing to play fantasy basketball, being a fake basketball knower. Doug likes to pretend like he knows basketball. He likes to pretend like he's a Hawks fan, but the dude won't even play fantasy basketball. Also, again, for overreacting to a trade, will he ever learn? Will he ever learn to not overreact to trades that always end up being okay, but he always thinks are like the end of the league? I don't know. Who had that dog is an obvious Will. I mean, Will just swept this whole thing this week. He came out of his slump. He picked up Rico, Waller, Michael Carter, yeah, Rashad White. I already went over it. It was a complete masterclass by Will. Huge dog. There's that, and then random rankings. We got one good random ranking. We have one phenomenal one after this good one. So, biggest Taylor Swift fans. Again, this is by Caitlin, who is a big Swift fan. And because of the new album coming out, I thought some people might appreciate to see where they rank in terms of being a Taylor Swift fan. So she puts Ashton number one. Totally makes sense. He's a little bit effeminate when it comes to his taste in music, so not surprising. Ashton number one. She puts Hunter number two. I added the performative aspect because I think Hunter is a performative Taylor Swift fan. I don't think he actually likes Taylor Swift. I think he just like pretends to for the ladies, if you will, for Haley. And so that's just my take. But she thinks Hunter is number two as a Swift fan. She then picks Will. Will's a sensitive guy. I'm sure he's had many a cry to Taylor Swift. Tyler, also kind of a sensitive guy. We know Tyler is a big Beyonce guy. And then she puts me, Cameron at five. Whatever. I mean, she's fine. I think she's okay. Dylan, Doug, Preston, Greg is such a clear not Swift fan. Broker, definitely not. Matt and Bobby. So I think I totally agree with this. I think I would probably have Matt last, Bobby a little higher. But I think this is pretty accurate. Again, I disagree. I think Hunter is a performative Swift fan, but it's her opinion. So this next and last random ranking, though, I need to give a little bit of heads up for. I need to give a little bit of backstory. So as you guys know, Hunter's family has a lake house in Utica, New York. And every year they go up there for like a semi-family reunion. And I think for probably the last 15 years or 10 years or something, Hunter's cousin, Chris, has a friend who comes up to the lake house with Chris and spends some time up there. That friend's name is Mark. Mark, great guy, super funny guy. He is a Utica native, Mark, Utica, New York native. And this past trip, we're all sitting around the campfire, and Chris and Mark are complaining about the dating scene in Utica, New York. They're like, oh, it's so this, that. They're like, the girls are terrible here in Utica. Like, Chris kind of is like, I don't like it here. And I asked Mark, it's seeming like he doesn't like Utica too much. And I asked Mark, I say, Mark, when are you going to move? Like, do you want to move? Like, what's up? And Mark just so emphatically looks me dead in the eyes. He says, no. He's like, I'm never moving. He's like, I'm never moving. He's like Jordan Belfort. He's like, I'm not leaving. And I'm like, really? Why? Like, why do you like here so much? And he just looks me dead in the eye and he's like, it's just so gritty. Mark's like, dude, he's like, I'm never living Utica, dude. It's so gritty. It's just the grit here. It fuels me. Mark says, he says, it's so gritty. Like, I just love the grit. And so I messaged Mark and I'm like, hey man, like, how would you feel as the grittiest guy I know to do, and also the guy who just loves Utica because of the grit. I'm like, you got to do grit rankings for me, right? So I asked Mark. I said, grit rankings, dude. Rattled me off some grit rankings. Mark, also background, he's a welder. I mean, the grittiest job you can have. That's a picture of him right there welding. That's an actual picture I got off his Instagram, and that's Mark to the right. Just an absolute grit monster. And so he gives me the grit rankings. He puts Hunter number one, and he gave me his reasoning. He says, honestly, these are Mark words. He says, honestly, it may be a little bit of a biased pick on my end. I've known Hunter the longest, and I've seen some real grit from him over the years. Whether it be football, soccer, spike ball, or slamming Utica clubs, that's a beer. I've never seen him back down from a challenge. That's what Mark said about Hunter. Now, I'm not going to, who am I to criticize Mark's grit rankings? But I don't think Hunter's as gritty as Mark thinks. I mean, for example, I will give Hunter dabs for this, but Hunter refuses to go on the boat when we're in Utica. It's like the least gritty thing I've ever seen. It's like he's like too afraid to go on the water. It's very strange. But you know, who am I? Hunter puts or Mark puts Hunter as number one. He puts Doug number two grit rankings. He puts Dylan number three. He knows Dylan. He knows Doug. He knows Hunter. He knows me. Me number four. Hey, I'll take number four. He put me over Cameron Broker at number five. He knows Cameron Broker. Mark's like Cameron Broker, not as gritty as Cameron Hand, and that is a win for me. Greg number six. Honestly, I was surprised. Mark's a big hockey guy, and so is Greg. So I assumed Mark would put Greg high on the grit rankings. Bobby number seven, and then he's going off pictures here. He thinks Tyler, Ashton, Will, Preston, and Matt are the least gritty guys on the list. And I can't disagree. I would say, in my personal opinion, Mark doesn't know Will, but I think Will is not very gritty. I think Ashton's probably the least gritty guy on this list, and then Will, and then I don't know. Matt's pretty gritty. I would definitely have Matt's way grittier than Cameron Broker, but you know, you can't. Mark can't bat 1,000. He doesn't know these guys. He's just going off pictures. But yeah, phenomenal list. Again, seven of the people in this league know Mark, and I think we'll love that grit ranking breakdown. But yeah, so let me know what you thought. And that is the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I'm excited for the week. Again, going to Commanders Bears in Commander Stadium on Monday. Super pumped for that. And yeah, thanks for watching.